Hi, I'm Debs and I'm here to talk to you about preparing for your exams. As you know, exams are pretty much a part of university life and most courses here will have an exam component. Exams are also something that many students find really stressful and also quite difficult to prepare for. So this video is going to explore the revision process and talk through some of the different things that you can do to make sure that you're preparing the best way possible and doing something that works for you. So the first thing that you should think about is how you currently study. What is it that you've been doing to help you understand the course material? And it might be that what you're doing isn't really the best method for you. Some students are doing it in a really passive way and it's not helping them understand the information. So the same methods that work for your colleagues won't necessarily work for you. It's a really individual thing. And later in this video, I'll talk through some of the different things that you can try. A really common mistake that people make when they're studying is that, as I said, is they do it in a really passive way. And what I mean by that is that they read over and over their notes or texts, just trying to kind of make the information stick in their brain somehow, hoping that it's going to tumble out at the right moment in the exam. And that very rarely happens, unfortunately. So another common mistake students will make that's very linked to that is that they'll maybe just copy their notes over and over again, hoping that this is going to help them memorise the information. And there are a number of reasons that these methods are not useful at all for most people. For one, they're incredibly boring, and more importantly, if you're just reading or copying notes, you're not doing anything with information, you're not engaging with the subject matter in an active way, and you're not making connections between topics or making sure that you understand anything. You're just really rewriting the information over and over again, and that doesn't really help most people understand it. In the exam, also, you don't know what you're going to be asked, so you need to be able to understand a broad range of material enough so that you can answer anything that you might be asked on it, and not just the things that you've memorised. And that's a real thing that happens in exams, a real failing in exams, is that students will see a topic that they've studied for, and maybe the question asks a slightly different angle for what they've studied, but they just tell us everything they know and don't really address the question, and that's a real problem. Your markers won't hunt for marks for you when you do that. They only really want to address the question that's there in front of you. For some types of exam, obviously there is a certain role for memory in them. Things like pathophysiology, you're going to have to remember a lot of drugs of choice, but you also have to show a real depth of understanding and a real depth of knowledge in the topics when you're writing. So revising in a more active way is going to help do that. So what I'm going to outline now is a 6-step process that I really know it works because I've used it myself many times. And don't get me wrong, it is a real graft, it is hard work, but this process and going through these steps really will make sure you've done everything that you can to prepare. So first of all, you need to know what you need to know for the exam. You need to identify what actually needs to be done. So you need to look at your module guide and your syllabus to see what the topics are and find out what you're expected to know about them. So you're going to kind of go to your, as I say, your module handbook, your lecture notes and slides, your recommended reading lists are going to be your starting point here. So for example, the module handbook or syllabus might say you need to know about asthma, COPD and associated pharmacology. However, these are still really broad topics and they've got a lot of different components within them, as you'll know. So it's really best and really helpful for exams to break each one down into smaller subtopics. Doing this makes sure really make sure you've covered all aspects of the topic that you could be asked about, and it also makes each topic a bit less of a monster to tackle because it's broken up into smaller parts. So let's take one of the topics from your module guides and see how you might do this. So if you take the topic of asthma, that's quite easily broken down into smaller parts. So from the lecture slides, as I say, if you take them as a starting point, you know that you need to know specific things about asthma. So the first thing you need to think about is, okay, what's a definition? What is it? Then you can start to add depth by thinking about different types of asthma that present, kind of mild, moderate, severe. How do they present? Would be another way to kind of add depth there. You also have to think about the epidemiology. So who does it affect? Do you have any stats on that anywhere? Is the gender ratio important here to think about? If so, why? Does it affect more men than women or vice versa? And why might that be? So this might be where you have to go beyond just the lecture notes to do a wee bit of extra reading to enhance your knowledge there. So then you also have to think about obviously the pathophysiology of it. So what's actually occurring in the body, how does it occur, what things are interacting when asthma flares up, when there's an attack, what are the possible outcomes, do you have different things in your readings about differences in airways of different groups of people, for example, so you can answer questions about an adult having an asthma attack or a child, and then in your answer you can maybe note that you would treat it in a specific way, but that might be different if you were treating an adult or child, etc. So as I say, there's many ways you can break it down, but you're always at the core of each topic going to be wanting to think about what is the thing, how do you know when it's happened, who does it affect, how does it affect them, how does it present to you, and how would you treat it, and how can it be managed. So these things are at the core of everything. But as you can see from the slide here, each topic can be broken up into these little smaller parts, and then you're not having to write pages and pages of information about each part. These are really short notes that you would take in each section, but it's short notes that will make sure you're covering every aspect of the topic. Okay, so these are the really core things that you need to know, and you can add depth by thinking about all the different components of the condition. Okay, so as I said, there are a number of things for each topic that you need to cover, which is difficult, but doing it this way and breaking it down is really going to make sure that you know enough about each topic to answer absolutely anything on it. So then once you've found out what you need to know, it's about looking at your notes and taking more notes, or seeing how you can enhance the notes you've already got to make them useful for you at exam time. As I've said before, many students will just maybe copy the notes out over and over again, and it's just really not a useful thing to do. You're only really practising your handwriting there rather than checking that you understand. So it's important at this stage as well, when you're looking at different texts and maybe online sources, that you think about the sources of this information as well and keep a note of that, because in your exams you are expected to be able to reference a lot of your ideas too, and it's not that you're going to have to reference as well as you would in an essay when you've got weeks and weeks to prepare it, but you are going to be expected to be able to give some evidence for the facts and figures and the depth that you're adding in your exam answers. Okay, but back to your reading and taking notes. This is a process on the screen that can be quite helpful. So instead of reading each text in depth, like you would maybe a novel, you'd maybe scan and skim the page for the information that you need. So having an idea of why you're reading the text is a really good idea at this point. So if you go to the way we broke down the topic of asthma, it's actually broken it up into little subcomponents. So then you could be looking at the text just to answer parts of these rather than reading it as a whole. So it's much more active, it's much more useful. So having that idea beforehand, what you're looking for, will really help. So then you just skim over the sections that you think might be useful for you to help you pick out the key points. Then every so often, make sure you're stopping and thinking, right, what is the author saying here? Do I understand this? And if you don't, and if you aren't able to write it out in your own words, then you really have to stop and go back and do some more reading. That's a real good test if you understand something, if you're able to change it into your own words and paraphrase it. And as I say, if you can't, it's maybe that you need to do a wee bit more reading on it. And don't at this stage just copy it down word for word, because it's really not going to be useful for you. So it's maybe useful at this point to look at how look at some examples of revision notes and think about how you can condense your notes and enhance them for exam time. If you look at the notes on the left, that's notes taken about human memory. As you can see, there's lots of information there. Quite intimidating actually to have pages and pages and masses of paragraphs to read near exam time. Your brain's all over the place and you're quite stressed sometimes, so kind of reading in that way isn't really useful, and having your notes like that isn't always really useful. So look at and kind of compare that to the one on the right. Much less intimidating, much easier to read, much easier to find the information on as well. So what this person's done when they're taking their notes is they've kind of scanned the page, they've started circling important terms, underlining key concepts, and then kind of used those to make headings on the next page. So in making the notes shorter, they've forced themselves to group the information together and make links between the different ideas. So if you do this with your notes, you're really making sure that you understand there. You're enhancing the notes rather than just recopying them. You're having to group things and having to know what comes under each heading. So doing that is a really active process and much better to help you study. And you could even go one step further here and condense your notes even further. You could use like flashcards as well and have really, really short, succinct bullet points on one side and maybe a question on the other side, so you can test yourself and then have the answers overleaf. So you can look at the question really quickly, have a think about what the answer might be, and then the answer will be on the other side for you to check that you're right. So testing yourself is a really important part of this process as well. A lot of students will wait till they get into the exam to find out what they know, and that's quite a risky strategy. For me, I think it's a really good idea to have little sub-questions. So when you're breaking up that topic, you can turn each of those sub-topics into a little question for yourself. Then you've got lots and lots of little questions that, again, are making sure you can understand and answer anything about that topic, rather than writing out lots of answers to past papers and trying to memorise them. So again, if we look at the asthma topic that earlier on we were discussing, breaking down, every one of these little subtopics could be a question. So it could be, what is asthma? What are the different types? What is the epidemiology? There's so many different things. How is it managed? And then why is it managed in this way? Okay, so lots of different things you can do to test yourself and check your knowledge before you get in the exam. And as I say, this is a crucial part, and it is probably the thing that's missed the most with students when they're studying, is they don't do this, they don't test themselves and see how much they know. So as I said earlier, what works for one person might not work for everyone in terms of how they revise. So I'll maybe just go over some of the different ways that previous students in youth course have found useful. One of the first ones is setting up a revision study group, and that might be something you've done already, because your peers can be a great help when you're studying. You can share resources, you can help each other out by testing each other. A really, really good way to test yourself as well as writing answers down is to have to say it out loud. It becomes very obvious very quickly when you don't know something. So if you could sit in a study group and give each other different topics to go away and learn, and then come back and present them to each other, and it's a really, really good way to learn. Teaching somebody something is a brilliant way to check that you understand it. Other things that students have found useful are, as I've already said, testing themselves, maybe using past papers or breaking up the topic into little subtopics and making questions. And sometimes you can even do that under exam conditions. You'll put your notes to one side and seeing how much you can write in maybe an hour. Some students find it useful also to record themselves giving explanations, and I know it can absolutely make you cringe at first having to listen to your own voice, but nobody else has to hear it. And I think it's really useful because nobody knows how to explain something to you better than you do. You know how you like to hear things, you know what's useful for you, and it's a different way to learn, it's a different way to get that information in other than just reading all the time. As I said earlier, it forces you to check that you understand the topic by having to explain it out loud. It's a really, really useful way, and it's something you can do, you know, anywhere. You can be listening to it on your phone at the bus stop, you can be travelling into university listening to it. The blank page technique is something that I find incredibly useful, and when I tell students about it, they seem to really like it as well. So basically what you would do with that is put all your notes to one side, take a blank sheet of paper, and without looking at any of your notes, write absolutely everything you know about one of your topics. You don't have to time yourself when you do it. It's pretty much just writing until you have completely exhausted all of your knowledge and can't write any more. This is good for a number of reasons. What it does is it sometimes gives students a lot of confidence, because then they can see what they know without looking at their notes. But also it forces you to check that you understand the topic. You don't have to time yourself when you do this. You're pretty much just writing until you've exhausted all of your knowledge on it. And then what you do is go back to your notes and see what you've missed. What have you missed about the topic that's really important? And take a wee breather, go back to your page and maybe take a different coloured pen and fill in the bits that you've missed, or start from scratch again. Give yourself a wee break and again write everything that you know about the topic. And what you'll find is that you'll write everything you already knew the first time, and you'll probably start to include the things that you've just read from your notes. So it's a good way from getting things from your short term to your long term memory, doing that, and you're testing yourself as you go. Really, really useful method that I'd highly recommend. So the blank page technique is a really useful method, but remember that in the exam, like I said earlier, you're going to be asked a very specific question, so you're not just going to go in and write everything you know about a topic. You're going to have to make sure that you're tailoring your knowledge to the very specific thing that they've asked. But again, the blank page technique is a really useful method to check what you know. Some people also find when they're studying topics like pathophysiology that having a kind of story and case study approach is quite useful. So what I mean by that is they'll maybe think of a condition, and then they'll maybe give it a patient in their head. So there was such and this happened to them, this is how I treated it and this is why. And sometimes personalising it in that way makes it easier for students to kind of remember if they give it a kind of case study approach, a story to it. And also acronyms are a brilliant way to do it. I remember I studied music at school, and one of the scales was every good boy deserves football, and I still remember that acronym to help me remember the notes and the letters. So they're really, really useful. You can turn the acronyms into anything that you remember, something that's easy for you to do. And I know, as I say, there's a lot of things that you need to remember, and that might be something that helps you remember and understand the stuff for the exam. The final thing on here is the mind map, and that's something I think you're probably familiar with from your course. But just a wee note here, I would say that mind maps are really useful for exams. Some people find them useful for during the course to help them understand the information, but I think they're particularly useful at exam time. As I've said earlier, it's hard for a lot of people to read pages and pages and paragraphs of notes, and mind maps are a really quick way to visually see what's there. Some people like to see things very visually with diagrams and find the information really quickly. So here are just a couple of examples of what that could look like for different topics, and you can make them as simple or as complicated as you like. It's just got to work for you, it's got to make sense for you. Some people, like the one on the screen, they like to colour code them. Again, if you're somebody who's quite visual and likes different colours and likes diagrams and things, this can be really useful for you to help you access that information later on. So you can see how it works here. At the centre of the mind map is a central topic, and here it's the circulatory system, and then it's got all the subtopics shooting off from it and notes underneath each of those, diagrams as well which are labelled. And that's something else to remember too. You can use diagrams in your exam, but just make sure you refer to them. Quite often students will maybe memorise a diagram and go in and just copy it in the exam, and then they don't refer to it, they don't say why it's there, and they don't label it and say what all the different parts are. So if you're going to use a diagram, make sure you refer to it. This is an example of maybe a slightly different way of looking at a map that you could help to use as you study. So this is a diagram that was on your lecture slides. You could cover the answers here. You could take the answers away of what each different thing is. Test yourself. As I say, using visual images can be a really good method for some people. It really helps trigger their memory and helps them remember different things that just writing notes over and over again doesn't always do. So the key points of this tutorial are: revision, for it to be effective, has got to be an active process. You've got to be doing something with the information rather than just passively reading it over and over and hope it's going to go in. As I've said in the video, there are lots of things that you can try when you're studying to help you. But go back through the slides and look at the revision process that I outlined earlier, as that is really, really a good process to make sure that you're covering everything and doing all you can for the exam. So there is another video on what to do in the actual exam and how to answer the questions, but good luck with your studies.